The director of the All Nations University College ISSL, that's the Intelligent Space System Laboratory in Ghana. And one of your projects is to design, build and launch a 3-kilo CubeSat into orbit by 2016.
Yes.
Now, how much of a project is this and how much of a prayer is it?
Thank you for the question. We have at ISSL, we have 3 stages that we want to actually go through in order to arrive at that CubeSat project. We initially wanted to actually build a deployable CanSat or satellite in a can and go into an amateur ground station and finally onto the CubeSat, because we believe that by so doing we have students to build the human capacity needed in order to go through those stages. And that's how come we actually did not give ourselves a year or 2, but actually gave ourselves about 3 years maximum in order to arrive at that.
Hold on, Manfred, you said satellite in a can?
Yeah.
But most people, myself included, would think that satellites are really complicated pieces of technology with, solar panels sticking out, and they're certainly not the size or the shape of a can.
Yeah. With that sort of satellite is a miniature satellite, and educational is actually meant for educational purposes. The whole idea behind that sort of satellite is to give students the idea, the basis, the foundation for them to be able to develop their own ideologies and technologies in order to go into the bigger satellite, that CubeSat that goes into orbit. And with that, we talked about the bigger the solar panels and that stuff. We actually use a smaller versions of those huge things that's on a bigger satellite. And by so doing, students are able to visualize, because it basically works like a conventional satellite, and it gives students the idea. Because, for instance, if you happen to put on a GPS on a receiver on that sort of satellite, it gives students an idea of a bigger GPS receiver on a bigger satellite. And you want to put on a camera on it, it's basically doing Earth observation on a bigger satellite. So it basically gives students the basis for them to be able to go into that sort of engineering on a bigger satellite.
Prof, how truly viable is this in the general context of how developed or relatively undeveloped we are in this part of the world? Many people would say, well, why not build good roads to all of our villages, provide them with water and electricity, health and educational infrastructure, as well as other social amenities before we even think about launching ourselves in any way into outer space?
There's probably 2 ways to look at that. Is one, by thinking that way, you've always are following someone else. And so a lot of times, and there's actually examples in which developing worlds can and have leapfrogged the technologies, because the technologies were so new that it's new to everybody, and they say, okay, we're going to start here. And so we're going to, it's like, instead of trying, good example, instead of trying to really build landlines so everybody can talk to each other through wired telephone, what Ghana and a lot of countries have done is and China, is they said, well, that takes too much infrastructure, so let's jump to cell phones. And so in a lot of ways, from what I understand, Ghana is 99% covered. In the U.S., we're not 99% covered. So this is a way of Kenya, where they've actually developed applications that we don't even have based on the cell phone. You can transfer money between folks, and we're still trying to do that in the U.S. The other thing is that satellites can, again, provide you information that you need to make those decisions about your environment, about your planning, that you might not be able to get on the ground. And those things are important to add, such that you build correctly, you make correct decisions, policy decisions, based upon better information.
Continuous real-time data flowing steadily, informing all political or technical decisions. This sounds wonderful. I can see how it can be used for agriculture,
yes,
for national security, for mining, for a whole bunch of things, even traffic. even traffic, or disaster management, for example. If you have an eye in the sky that's sending you reliable video, photo, and perhaps magnetic resonance data all the time, we definitely have an advantage over anyone who is gathering this on the ground.
Exactly. And I can just give you one example, is that with my colleagues in South Africa and Florida, that we've actually designed a constellation of small satellites for detection of forest fires. And it actually covered all of Africa, and just using 8 or 9 of these small sats, and we're talking this 10 by 10 by 20 centimeters on the side. Putting 9 up there, continuous coverage. We can go over Accra every hour.
What you're telling me is that there are universities in the United States and other parts of the world that actually launch their own satellites into space just for purposes of academic research.
Yes, academic and scientific research.
Academic and scientific research.
Right.
What is the cost of putting a 10 by 10 by 10 satellite into orbit? Something that would have all the surveillance and communication equipment to satisfy some of the benefits that we just discussed.
Well, there's a scale factor such that we might not be able to put everything on a single satellite of that size, so we can actually grow it to get what we want. But in terms of costs, right now it's probably minus the launch cost. No, with the launch cost, it's about $2 million.
$2 million?
$2 million US dollars.
Okay, that sounds like private money. What sort of response do you get from people in Ghana, both in the public and private sector, Manfred, when you tell them that, well, you've got the ISSL and it's a space program for Ghana and you're going to design, build and launch satellites into orbit at the end of it, and perhaps do even more?
It has been quite difficult because the awareness and the benefits has really not been seen and be felt by the ordinary Ghanaian. So it has been quite difficult. But we are still trying, and this is also a platform that whoever is watching us might be getting interested in, to support us to be able to do such not a huge project, but at least to put satellite into orbit, and fully 100% Ghanaian sort of satellite into, because we are actually developing engineers who will be working on that, and that's how comes out with that deployable CANSAT. And from there, we'll be able to have engineers who have been trained, built to be able to work on these subsystems of such satellites.
I'm finding this hard to believe that people are skeptical in Ghana about the importance or the benefit of satellite technology to us, considering that, well, we are now transmitting everything we say and everything we do between us via satellite to every part of the world. And satellite technology is with us every day in our cell phones, in our satellite television, in our information systems. And you say that people are skeptical.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of people, and at times you'll be amazed to hear the response from those that you don't even expect them to give such a response, a negative response, because they don't see the need. As you rightly said, they will just start by saying we still have people in the village, no roads, no water, and why do you think we should go into space, spending millions of dollars into space? So at times you have to really take your time to explain things for them to really understand. Basically, for instance, the ordinary Ghanaian fisherman can really benefit from satellite technology, and currently we have oil and gas. Putting satellite into orbit will actually help us to really detect oil spillage in a couple of minutes, to just relate to the relevant agency to be able to act on it, which will not actually go into the extent of what will happen in Gulf of Mexico.
How far have you gotten with your program?
Yeah, so far it has been going on steadily. Currently, we are done with the first project, as the deployable CANSAT, which will be launched on 21st. So
wait, say that again? I wasn't expecting such good news, to be honest with you.
Yeah, we are done. We had.
You are done.
Yeah, we are done.
You designed and built a satellite, a CANSAT.
A CANSAT.
What can this satellite do?
The CANSAT actually came as a result is at the end it's phased into a 350 ml sort of can size. That's how come you have the name can size.
Oh, it's smaller than Ononka.
Yeah, but it basically works like that of conventional slide, just some limitations.
And you've designed and built
we have different
in Ghana.
Yeah, exactly.
Designed and built in Ghana by Ghanaians.
Yes.
And you're ready to launch.
Yeah.
On the
we actually built 4 out of we have different missions. Some are going to do temperature sensing and GPS locations, and others are going to give live video coverage of as it goes up and when it's descending after it has been deployed from the launching vehicle. Then everything starts, the telemetry starts coming via the ground station.
That's fantastic. Prof, how far would you say we could possibly be from having our own satellites in geostationary orbit that would meet all our requirements and even allow us to sell some of our excess capacity to other African states?
Well, as we all know, depending on the will and the money.
Okay, the money we've already estimate like one is about $2 million. What about in terms of time and technological expertise?
If you really did a concerted effort, because I think a lot of the expertise already lies here within the engineering schools, 5 years.
Africans with satellites in 5 years. Now, there are some skeptics on our page this morning. It says we can't even get light. And you think satellites? That almost right. We can't even get light. And you think satellites, Flo Baby Carter. So I reckon it'll even fall from the sky and cause some disaster. What would you say to a skeptic like that?
I would say such problems has been there, and we going to space wouldn't actually cause anything. It just, I normally say commitment and a zeal from our policymakers to be able to go into such a technology. And the other person actually said it might fall from the sky. I think he has to rethink. We have the human capacity, the engineers in the system, as Prof said, we will be able to do a very good job in order for the satellite to be in orbit for years.
But technically, these things are going to be in an orbit where when it falls out of orbit, it's going to burn up because they're so small. It's not going to exist.
Well, yes, it's an interesting that you should say that. So at a certain level, you say that we have the requisite knowledge and expertise to design, build, and launch our own satellites. All it takes is a little bit of political or perhaps even private willpower backed by some monetary financial resources to make that into a reality. But then many people think otherwise. They actually don't understand technology. What do you make of this gap between the Africans and the Africans? We cannot do it. I can't.
Well, one way you can look at it is that how many Africans that have been trained in the U.S. that are working at NASA, that are working at all these aerospace companies, it's really a matter of, say, why don't you come home for a couple of years? And it's done. The expertise amongst Ghanaians, amongst South Africans, amongst Ethiopians is there. And if Ethiopia is going to actually launch one in 3 years, and they're starting from probably a lesser point than you are, than Ghana is.
We've come a long way, haven't we? A couple of days ago, on the 8th of March, to be precise, International Women's Day, Mama C, that's Charlotte O'Neill, was sitting right here where you're sitting now. And Charlotte is the wife of Pete O'Neill, and Pete O'Neill was the erstwhile leader of the Kansas chapter of the Black Panther Party. Now, back in those days, Africans or African Americans with guns were considered to be something incredibly dangerous. Now we're talking about Africans with satellites. Do you think we have the political will on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean to make that an everyday reality?
Yes, I do. And in fact, the head of NASA was in South Africa last year, and he says that we're willing to help to assist Africans in developing their space program. I understand that folks from the State Department are saying we're willing to help and invest to make this movement. I think we need to take off our personal baggage and not think about the past anymore. Just moving forward.
Yes, let's think forward. Manfred, have you thought up a name for your satellites? You know, the Russians call this Sputnik and the Americans call this the Apollo. Have you actually decided to name the first satellites that you designed and built?
Not really, but
you don't have one called Sagittal, Black Star and stuff like that.
The first thing that will come to mind will be GANSAT 1. That's Ghana Satellite 1. Yeah.
GANASAT 1.
Yeah. GANSAT
1.
GANSAT 1.
Okay.
First thing. And just to add to what Prof said, there's currently some program going on UN Unit for Outer Space, where they actually help developing countries, like people who are actually starting in terms of launching vehicles. They have other way of talking to these people. So for instance, if Ghana or we are able to just develop one satellite, we can go to them, they talk to these launching vehicles providers, and they'll just launch our satellite for free. And that's one of opportunity that we're actually hoping to grab when our satellite is ready.
And just one other thing, there might be, there's a African Leadership Conference on Space and Science and Technology that's going to happen here in Ghana. And it's the 5th one. It happens every other year. But it's going to be here, and I believe it's going to be in November.
Yeah.
So there seems to be a lot going on that many people, myself included, might not be aware of. Manfred, coming back to the all-important question of resources, who is paying for this and how?
Are you referring to the small satellite?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Currently it's being financed solely by the university, All Nations University. They actually financing every aspect of, including the laboratory, everything that goes into the lab. But we still need a lot of equipment, and that's our technology needs. The equipment are really sophisticated and expensive, when put that way. But yeah, the university is really trying.
Edward Obilode thinks that he believes it's time for Ghana to think outside the box. Well, outside the box of our atmosphere, I would suppose. Giant steps in the area of science and technology is a possibility, thinks Edward, and he also thinks that yes, we can. In fact, we should. Bogali Hashim says, well, may Allah bless all the active Sunrise viewers indeed. And I'd like to see a bit more activity on this topic. And George Acho is still not convinced. Says, well, please, I think the space idea is good, but why not tackle the electricity crisis and come out with new technology for generating power before thinking of going to space, which to him is less important at the moment. Well, think outside the box, George. Think outside the box. Don't you think that if we had better surveillance and information and communication systems, it could help to improve our energy management in some way or the other? Just think about it. Think about it. Pause and think for a moment. Well, I've been thinking and I've been talking to two very interesting people. Dr. William Edmondson is an NIA Langley professor, Department of Electrical Engineering, North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University. He is also a member of the National Institute of Aerospace, and he's here as a guest of Manfred Kwashi, who is a director of the All Nations University College Intelligent Space Systems Laboratory, ISSL Ghana. The good news is that, well, they've already designed and built a satellite. It's going to be launched into orbit. It's at the academic level yet, small steps, but then with a little bit of money and a little bit of time, I'm sure very soon we'll have our own vibrant space program. The director tells me that he's going to play a song entitled Welcome to the Future. I'd like to say, once again, welcome and goodbye at the same time, and good luck. I hope to see you again. Bring back some video of your launch.
Sure.
It'd be nice to share with people. They say seeing is believing.
Exactly.
All those who are skeptical and say, well, we can't do it and it's costing too much and it's for nothing. Well, just bring a video when you do it and let's share it with Ghana and the world. Thank you very much. Keep watching Sunrise. We'll be right back after this break.